Hello and welcome to this exploring session. Today we are looking at the play Like Will to Like, or in a slightly longer version of its title, a pleasant interlude entitled Like Will to Like, Quoth the Devil to the Collier, wherein is declared what punishments follow those that will rather live licentiously than esteem and follow good counsel, and what benefits they receive that apply themselves to virtuous living and good exercises, made by, and here I might throw it to the room, Ulpian Fulwell, or is it Ulpian Fulwell? I never quite know whether you're supposed to pronounce the U's or not. Did I hear? No, nobody had a clue. It was just resounding silence from the room. We're going to be doing this in two sessions. This is our first session where we start the first half of the play, as I thought that might be moderately logical way around to do it. And then we're going to do the second half tomorrow, and we'll find out how it all functions and hopefully discuss it and pull it apart in various fun ways. We have a team of readers. Now the play is in theory doubles down to 5, but we have more than 5 today, so we split the parts up a little bit more. And to introduce the team today, first up, reading Lucifer, and it's either Ralph or Rafe, depending on your personal taste, is...
Hello, my name is Sascha Cooper, and I'm a professional actress, dancer, and all-round performer based in Brighton in the UK.
And reading the part of Haunce is...
Liza Graham, actor and singer, Shakespearean text coach in London.
And reading the part of Tom Tosspot is...
Lynsey Beauchamp, professional actor, currently self-isolating in Norfolk.
And reading the part of Tom Collier is...
Hi, I'm Ruth Evans. I teach English, a lot of Middle English, and I'm based in St. Louis in Missouri in the Midwest of
and
US.
Reading the part of the Vice, Newfangle is...
Hi, I'm Steve Longstaffe. I'm a scholar of early modern drama, and I'm coming from Lancaster in the United Kingdom.
And finally, reading the Prologue and Philip Fleming is...
I'm Scott Fairley, and I'm an actor from the Highlands of Scotland.
Now, as I say, there are more characters than that, but they are, I think, all the characters that we are dealing with today. So I wouldn't want to spoil your appetite by going too far into the text too early. So, without further ado, I say we're going to be quite stoppity-starty as we try and pull this apart. So let's see how this play opens with a little bit of prologuing. So, go prologue, please.
Cicero in his book De Amicitia these words doth express, saying nothing is more desirous than like is unto like, whose words are most true and of a certainty doubtless. For the virtuous do not the virtuous company mislike, but the vicious do the virtuous's company eschew, and like will unto like, this is most true. It is not my meaning your ears for to weary, with hearkening what is the effect of our matter, but our pretence is to move you to be merry, merrily to speak, meaning no man to flatter. The name of this matter, as I said where'er, is Like Will to Like, quoth the devil to the collier. Sith pithy proverbs in our English tongue doth abound, our author thought good such a one for to choose, as may show good example, and mirth may eke be found, but no lascivious toys he purposeth for to use. Herein, as it were in a glass, see you may the advancement of virtue, of vice the decay. To what ruin ruffians and roysters are brought, you may here see of them the final end. Begging is the best, though that end be naught, but hanging is worse if they do not amend. The virtuous life is brought to honour and dignity, and at the last to everlasting eternity. And because diverse men of diverse minds be, some do matters of mirth and pastime require, other some are delighted with matters of gravity. To please all men is our author's chief desire. Wherefore mirth with measure to sadness is annexed, desiring that none here at our matter will be perplexed. Thus, as I said, I will be short and brief. because from this dump you shall relieved be. And the devil with the collier, the thief that seeks the thief, shall soon make you merry, so shortly you shall see. And sith mirth for sadness is a sauce most sweet, take mirth then with measure, that best sauceth it.
And that's the prologue. And it's nice that when he says, "I will be short and brief," and he actually is. It gets in, it gets out. It's really nice. It does remind me a little bit of the opening of Jack Juggler, where they're talking about Cicero as well there, and the using proverbs and just setting out the lay of the land without going too explicitly into what we're going to get. It's not a prologue that seems to be determined to tell us the whole plot, but is giving us, just the general outline and a sense of what's going on. Do we know? Does anyone in the room? I'm just throwing this out there. Know much with the like will to like quoth the devil to the collier. Does anyone know much about that as a proverb or anything that might be thrown? No is a perfectly legitimate answer, by the way.
Don't we more use the proverb now? Birds of a feather flock together. Yeah. Is that not a similar?
Yeah. I think that's a fair shout. Yes, it's not one that that seems to be connecting too much. But
you do get. I'm thinking. I mean, I'm spitballing here. I haven't researched this, but I think in plays of the period, you get colliers associated with devils a little bit, because a collier. There's that whole saying of, though I be black, I be not the devil. And there's that whole trope of the devil being black and colliers being black with coal dust. And maybe that's why the devil thinks he's like the collier, or the collier is like the devil.
Mm-hmm. I think that is a very accurate shout, and we may find out more as we go into the text. Just one for pronunciation. A question of the EKE, because we going for eek, but I believe is it more ek or eka sound? Any thoughts in the room on that one?
I've always heard it as eek, but then any OP nerds here?
Yeah, I've heard it as eek as well.
I've only heard it as eek, and I did check it with a dictionary that suggested that the Middle English root that it comes from would have been closer to iach rather than any other sound. So because I'm not putting an accent on it, and I'm not even attempting to make these words rhyme or do anything in original pronunciation, eek sort of falls on my ear better than that. But that was only a cursory look at a dictionary. So
I think for a modern day pronunciation, I'd say eek, but I guess in Middle English and probably early modern English, it would be like eka, something like that. But then that would really make it sound odd unless you made all the other vowels shift around too.
It's one I've sort of been wrestling with over the last few years of from the advice I've been given about what it might have sounded like and what we then go for, or do we just change it to also, which is sometimes just easier, but I just thought I'd throw that in. Any thoughts about this nice little prologue? I don't think there's much really to say about it, but I just thought I'd pause there. Okay, let's get into the meat of the text then. Here entereth Nicol Newfangle the Vice, laughing, and hath a knave of clubs in his hand, which as soon as he speaketh, he offereth unto one of the men or boys standing by.
Now, like unto like, it will be none other. Stoop, gentle knave, and take up your brother. Why is it so? Is it even so indeed? Why then may I say, God send us good speed. And is everyone here so greatly unkind that I am no sooner out of sight, but quite out of mind? Marry, this will make a man even weep for woe, that on such a sudden no man will let me know. Should men be so dangerous now at this day, yet are women kind worms, I dare well say. How say you, woman? You that stand in the angle, were you never acquainted with Nicol Newfangle? When I see Nicol Newfangle, it's quite forgot. Yet you will know me anon, I dare jeopard a groat. Nicol Newfangle is my name. Do you not know me? My whole education to you I shall show. But first, before I was born, I remember very well that my grandsire and I made a journey into hell, where I was bound prentice before my nativity to Lucifer himself. Such was my agility. All kinds of sciences he taught unto me, that unto the maintenance of pride might best agree. I learned to make gowns with long sleeves and wings. I learned to make ruffs like calves' chitterlings, hats, coats, all kinds of apparels, and especially breeches as big as good barrels, shoes, boots, buskins, with many pretty toys, all kinds of garments for men, women, and boys. Know you me now? Thought that at the last all acquaintance from Nicol Newfangle is not past. Nicol Newfangle was and is and ever shall be, and there are but few that are not acquainted with me. For as soon as my prenticehood was once come out, I went by and by the whole world about.
Here the devil entereth, but speaketh not yet.
Sancti benedicite, whom are we here? Tom Tumbler? Or else a dancing bear? Body of me, we'd best go no near. For aught that I see, it is my godfather Lucifer, whose prentice I've been this many a day. No words but mum. You shall hear what he will say.
This name
Oh,
Lucifer must be written on his back and on his breast. Do we have a Lucifer? Or is there more text that I'm missing? Oh, Sascha looks a bit still. I think we've lost Lucifer. Oh, well, I'm going to take this as a moment to briefly talk about what's happened already.
I think we must all be very virtuous, mustn't we?
Yes, indeed. Yes, we've frozen Satan out of the conversation, and there are some. Oh, she's coming back on, but she's already still up there. We've been in this place before. Hopefully, this will be all right.
Hi. Sorry about that, guys. My phone overheated. I'm back.
Okie dokie. Hopefully, you'll also disappear because you're also still in the room.
Oh well, I'm here. I'm here still, so that's fine.
Excellent. Well, we're taking the moment to briefly talk. I mean, it's interesting the question of the direction I've got here. I don't know if you've got it in yours. The name Lucifer must be written on his back and on his breast. This seems to be a costuming point. They're explicitly pointing out that this is Lucifer. The fact that Newfangle is this apprentice who's very interested in fashions, and I'm thinking someone who has a fashion hat in the room might be able to talk about that a little bit in a second. But also the fact that when you're not supposed to see the devil enter, you're explicitly talking to someone in the audience and giving them a name, and there's this nice little bit of stagecraft. There's lots of little things in that whole opening speech that I really like. Anyone want to jump in with any of the random thoughts that I've thrown about?
I love how this opens with, you know, the Vice coming on and kind of charming the audience by playing with them and kind of getting to know them quite well. You know, all this action with the knave of clubs, is it, at the top of the speech? You know, like unto like, so here's this card and I'm going to hand it to you because you're obviously a knave, is how I was sort of seeing it. And I think it's a lot of fun.
You know,
I was wondering whether Newfangle here could be picking up on this idea of fashion. Because, you know, what is newfangled is the new fashion. And there's a lot in here about, I guess, some of it is specific trendy clothes stuff perhaps, and some of it is just pick on random audience member who's wearing a coat or shoes. And it gives you sort of huge amount of leeway for business.
Yes. Trying to also, connect you and your apprentice, Lucifer's apprentice ways with all the people in the audience saying, "You're as bad as me. We're all one, aren't we, guys?" And that's really nice. Picking out a woman who's sort of in some sort of nook and cranny at the back of the room or something, which is possibly what is meant by in the angle or at the doorway or something like that. So it's not just boys and men out there, though that is quite specific in the script. So assuming someone's hanging about.
It could be a hall. It could be, there'd be servants of both sexes, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
And boys.
Any additional thoughts on fashion as hopefully Sascha comes back online now? Liza, I think do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I totally do. That the church has always loved to rail against extravagance of dress, and this is no exception. I love the ruffs like calves chitterlings. If you've seen like beef tripe, it's sort of pale and white and wavy looking, and the gowns with long sleeves and wings, and the breeches as big as barrels. They first of all are a proclamation of status because they take up space. Second of all, they're a proclamation of affluence because they use a lot of fabric. I don't know, Robert, do we have a date for this play?
Yes, I didn't mention at the top. I don't have a precise one. Sometime in the 1560s seems to be the general area. But
yeah.
I've got a range, 62 to 68 is what I've got noted.
So think about that portrait of Henry VIII, where he's essentially proclaiming his status through wearing this enormous clothing that takes up a whole lot of space. And you'll have but then think about your average layperson trying to pass each other in the street while wearing stuff like that, and you'll have some idea of what they're complaining about. There were, pre-Reformation, there were sumptuary laws where the church would actually declare, they would make rules as to what you could and couldn't wear depending on your social status. But after the Reformation, those kind of went out the window because they were no longer the churches to enforce. They were the kings and the king's law to enforce. And nobody really cared. And besides, people wanted to sell more fabric anyway.
Well, there were still attempts to control clothing and fashion and things later on as well. I seem to recall
there were proclamations, but there weren't any laws.
No, it's that thing of you try, but it's clearly not working.
Yes, but it gives people more to denounce from the pulpit.
Yes.
And here they're a manifestation of pride and vanity. That's all I have to say.
No, it's fine. I'm sort of looking, and Sascha is frozen again, I'm afraid.
Frozen again, yeah.
So does anyone want to, I think we're going to have to step in, and anyone want to leap up and be Lucifer?
I don't mind reading it
cold,
if you don't mind.
Doesn't mind.
If no one else wants to do it.
No, unless fight for yourselves if you want to go for it. Okay, we've got our Lucifer. Okay, so say Lucifer with a sign on your back saying that you are indeed the Prince of Darkness, because of course evil must need to advertise. That's how these things work.
Oh, mine own boy, I am glad that thou art here.
He speaketh to you, sir. I pray you come near.
Nay, thou art...
Yeah, so the Newfangle is obviously pointing at someone standing by, so trying to pass on to somebody else.
Nay, thou art even he of whom I am well apaid.
Then speak aloof, for to come nigh I am afraid.
Why so, my boy, as though thou didst never see me?
Yes, godfather, but I am afraid it is now, as ofttimes it is with thee. For if my dame and thou hast been tumbling by the ears, as oftentimes you do, like a couple of great bears, thou carest not whom thou killest in thy raging mind. Dost thou not remember, since thou didst bruise me, behind. This hole in thy fury didst thou disclose, that now may a tent be put in as big as thy nose. Oof, that was when my dame called thee bottle-nosed knave. I am like to carry the mark to my grave.
Did Sasha want to carry
we'll
on?
we'll just pause
Sorry.
there. Do you think you're with us, Sasha?
I am. I've had to switch devices, basically.
Okie dokie. You've lost a few lines, but you're still in play. So we've gone after the first few little lines of Newfangle and Lucifer, and we're going from "Oh my good boy, be not afraid."
Okay, yep, that's
Newfangle
fine.
is clearly a bit worried about what Lucifer might be about to do to him.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Oh, my good boy, be not afraid, for no such thing hath happened as thou hast said. But come to me, my boy, and bless thee I will, and see that my precepts thou do fulfill.
Well, Godfather, if you will say aught to me in this case, speak, for in faith I mean not to kneel to that ill face. If Our Lady of Walsingham had no fairer nose and visage by the mass, they were fools that would go to her on pilgrimage.
Well, boy, it shall not greatly skill whether thou stand or whether thou kneel. Thou knowest that though pride from heaven I was cast, even unto hell, wherefore see thou make haste. Such pride through new fashions in men's hearts to show that those that use it may have the like overthrow. From virtue procure men to set their high minds aside, and wholly employ it to all sin and pride. Let thy newfangled fashions bear such a sway, that a rascal may be so proud as he best may.
Tush, tush, that is already brought to pass. For a very skipjack is proud, I swear by the mass, and seeketh to go more gayer and more brave than doth a lord, though he himself be a knave.
I can thee thank that so well hast played the part. Such as do so shall soon feel the smart. Seeth thou hast thus done, there remaineth behind that thou in another thing show thy right kind.
Then, good Godfather, let me hear thy mind.
Thou knowest I am both proud and arrogant, and with the proud I will ever be conversant. I cannot abide to see men that are vicious accompany themselves with such as be virtuous, wherefore my mind is, sith thou thy part canst play, that thou adjoin like to like alway.
I never loved that well, I swear by this day.
What, my boy?
Your mind is, sith I fast 3 meals every Good Friday, that I eat nothing but onions and leeks alway.
Nay, my mind is, sith thou thy part canst play, that thou adjoin like to like alway.
Tush, tush, Godfather Devil, for that have thou no care. Thou knowest that like will to like, quoth the devil to the collier, and thou shalt see that such match I make anon, that thou shalt say I am thy good, sweet, sweet God's son.
I will give thee thanks, when thou hast so done. Here entereth in the collier.
Yes, here entereth in the collier. So it's like having named the proverb to make sure that we're really clear what play we're in. The collier does indeed enter. So let's see what transpires from this.
Well, Godfather, no more words but mum. For yonder comes the collier, as it seemeth me. By the mass he will make a good mate for thee. What? Old acquaintance, small remembrance? Welcome to town with a very vengeance. Now welcome, Tom Collier. Give me thy hand. It's very a knave as any in England.
Oi, mass, God a mercy, my friend Nichol.
By God and welcome, gentle Tom Lickle.
I'm glad to see thee merry, my friend Nichol. And how dost nowadays, good Nichol?
Nothing else but even plain Nichol.
I pray thee, tell me how dost good friend Lickle?
He's turned from nickel to lickle with Tom Collier. I say no more, Tom. Hold thy nose there.
Nay, hold thy tongue, Nichol, till my nose doth come. So shall take part, so thou shalt take part, and I shall take some.
Well, Tom Collier, let these things pass away. Tell me, what market hast thou made of thy coal today?
To every bushel chas o but 3 peck. Lo, here be the empty zacks on my neck. Try beguile the orsons that a me a bought, but to beguile me was their old thought.
But hast thou no conscience in beguiling thy neighbour?
No, marry, so it's my gain for my labour. It is a common trade nowadays, this is plain, to cut one another's throat for lucre and gain. A small vaught as the world is now brought to pass.
Thou art a good fellow, I swear by the mass, as fit a companion for the devil as may be. Lo, Godfather Devil, this fellow will match with thee.
And good Tom Collier, thou art welcome to me.
And he taketh him by the hand.
God a mercy, good devil, I'm glad of thy company.
Like will to like, I see very well.
Godfather, wilt thou dance a little before thee go home to hell?
I am content, so that Tom Collier do agree.
I will never refuse, devil, to dance with thee.
Then, Godfather, name what the dance shall be.
Tom Collier of Croydon hath sold his coal.
Why then, have at it, by my father's soul.
And we'll just briefly pause there before we get to the entertainments. Okay, so what's going on with this this Lucifer thing? Obviously, we've got to get the proverb in there. But what is it that Lucifer wants from Newfangle? What's going on? I love this silence. I asked the question because it's like we've sort of gone through this scene and there's been some back and forth. What is actually happening? Because Lucifer seems reasonably insistent on something, but what is it? Lucifer, thoughts? What do you want?
That's what I'm trying to work out, because obviously due to technological problems, I've just come in at halfway. But I am looking sort of at the beginning here. I mean, he does. It's almost as if he wants Newfangle to bend to his will as much as he can. Whatever. I mean, he wants him to basically. I think he wants him to go out a little bit more on his own to cause more mischief. Especially as he says here, thou knowest what sciences have I thee taught, which are able to bring the world to naught. You know, so it's almost like it's saying, pass on my teachings in a way, you know, like how Christ's teachings were passed on. In this instance, Lucifer being the angel of light, the bringer of light, in a rough biblical translation, it's almost like he's saying that let's pass that down. Let's pass on what you've learned and let's cause more chaos from that first speech.
So if Newfangle is an apprentice, then his master's turned up and said, are you going to get on and do some work?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't seem, you know, he's just playing around when he first enters. Is that sort of the game that we've got? Does the rest of the room agree? Is that a reasonable assessment?
I often thought, I just wonder if there's an element of Lucifer wants some people in his gang, you know, and he's employing Newfangle to, hey, go out and get some matching light, get some people that can be in my gang and get them on my side. And, you know, and the audience is going to love that idea that there'll be a whole, bunch of devils.
True, I'd agree with that as well. Especially as it goes on. You know, especially with the entrance of Collier. Yeah, I mean,
must look, you know, he's been coal mining, so he's all blackened. And
Yes, because they're constantly making that like will to like thing that we were discussing earlier. And so, who is Tom Collier? Because he doesn't seem like a. I mean, obviously, he's got the comedy local accent. I don't know how extreme your spelling is, Ruth. There,
pretty extreme. I mean, to me, it looks West Country spelling. So it was kind of going for a West Country thing, but then it says Tom Collier of Croydon, which is
something else.
But I suppose there could be lots of Croydons.
Well, I think we have in other plays this kind of generic Mummerset accent, which is generic yokel.
I think that's what it is, generic yokel.
Wasn't Fulwell from Somerset? Wasn't he born in Wales? I think, and because I've worked in Wales.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think he was originally born there.
In Gloucestershire. Son of a farmer from Gloucestershire is all I have. Literally, that is the one line of information about his
Let me
background.
see what I can find.
So, in the right direction.
This says he was a rector of Naunton in Stow-on-the-Wold, Gloucestershire, but he was actually born in Wells, Somerset, and ordained a priest there in 1566.
Yeah.
But he managed to matriculate at St Mary Hall in Oxford. That's all I can find out about him.
I've got very, very little information, so that's good. It's definitely the right part of the country. So maybe it's very accurate. Liza, you're
okay. So our earlier question was, what does the devil want? And having read it over, it seems the devil wants what the devil always wants. The devil wants souls, but he also, I think the crux of it is these lines. I cannot abide to see men that are vicious accompany themselves with such as be virtuous. Wherefore my mind is, since thou thy part canst play, that thou adjoin like to like alway. So basically he wants Newfangle to make some friends, and to get people who are already a bit wicked and just draw them into, as you were saying earlier, a gang. And Tom Collier, who is Tom Collier? He's I don't know if colliers were miners. They were definitely people who sold coal to householders.
Right.
And he says, to every bushel has sold but 3 peck, and there were 4 pecks in a bushel. So basically he's saying that he's selling you a bushel of coal, but it's short, and he's taking your money anyway. But he's saying, I beguiled the whoresons that of me have bought, but to beguile me was their whole thought. So, hashtag capitalism.
Yeah. That's a very good way of putting it. I like that. He's not a nice chap, is he? By any stretch of the imagination.
He's not
getting that impression.
God, definitely not.
And they immediately take hands, and he's completely unfazed by the fact that the Prince of Darkness is just over there.
Yeah, they don't even have to try. He's just, oh, hello, Mr. Satan. Yes, excellent. They don't.
And
very
actually,
happy to dance with the devil.
Yes.
Just as an interesting textual point, when he takes Collier by the hand, I don't know where your instruction comes in, Robert, but
I think it is different. Yes.
Yeah, because if you wonder why the gap was, it was because taketh him by the hand that comes after in the version I've got. I don't know if anybody else has got this version.
Oh, yeah, you should all have the same.
Yeah, just after this fellow will match with thee, it's taketh him by the hand, and in yours it came a little bit later, I think.
Yeah, I've got it the line after. All of the stage directions are potentially slightly wrong, because stage directions are always slightly out. So where do we think it lives is perhaps the better question.
Thank you. I just wanted to double check that. Thank you.
So yes, I may be slightly out with stage directions because I'm following a different text on purpose, just to be confusing. It's pretty much exactly the same. So where do we think that handshake should live?
I think actually where it was, where you initially read it, as soon as Lucifer says, and good Tom Collier, thou art welcome to me, it's that taken by the hand there, I think, you know, just bring him at point.
I would have the devil. I would have the devil offer the hand. Newfangle tells the devil, "Lo, Godfather Devil, this fellow will match with thee." I would have Lucifer offer the hand on his line, "Good Tom Collier, thou art welcome to me," and Collier take the hand on, "God a mercy, good devil."
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, somewhere in there. I think we can probably leave it to the actors to decide, but you know, which is. But I think that's a good shout. That's a good shout. So and so they then intimate a bit of a sing along, as it were, and a song and a dance and stuff. Nicole Newfangle must have a cithern or something similar, and there we are. That's as close as we're going to get. Some other instrument, if he may, but if they have none, they must dance about the place, all three, and sing this song. So you've got options how you stage this, depending on how good your players are, and what their skill set is, and whether they brought their guitar with them. And sing this song that followeth, which must be done though they have an instrument. So who wants to do it? Because having everyone singing at the same time is a disaster. Who just want to say the words? Ruth, give us the text.
Okay, in the Somerset accent.
However you like.
I might give that up here.
I would.
Okay. Tom Collier of Crichton hath sold his coals and made his market today, and now he dances with the devil, for like will to like alway. Wherefore let us rejoice and sing, let us be merry and glad, said that the collier and the devil this match and danceth mad. Now of this dance we make an end, with mirth and eke with joy. The collier and the devil will be much like to like alway.
Marry, this is trim singing. I had not thought the devil to be so cunning. The Master Tom Collier is as good as he. I see that like will like with like will ever agree.
Very well, Master Devil, for itch must be gone.
And exit Tom Collier.
Why then, farewell, my gentle friend Tom.
Farewell, Tom Collier, and knave be thy comfort. How sayest thou, Godfather? Is this not trim sport?
Thou art my own boy, my blessing thou shalt have.
By my truth, Godfather, that blessing I do not crave, but if you go your way, I will do my diligence, as well in your absence as in your presence.
But thou shalt salute me, ere I go, doubts, that in thy doings thou mayest have better success. Wherefore kneel down and say after me, when the devil will have it so, it must needs so be.
What shall I say, battle-nosed Godfather? Canst thou tell?
Oh, hail, no prince of hell.
All my dame's cow's tail fall down in the well.
I will exalt thee above the clouds.
I will salt thee and hang thee in the shrouds.
Thou art the enhancer of my renown.
Thou art Haunce, the hangman of Calais town.
To thee be honour alone.
To thee shall come our hobbling Joan.
Amen.
Amen.
Now farewell, my boy, farewell heartily. Is there never a eve he'll keep the devil company?
Farewell, Godfather, for thou must go alone. I pray thee, come hither again anon.
I'm just going to pause there because there's some interesting difference in who's saying what lines here in places. Also, just Sascha, you are slightly cutting in and out in slightly alarming ways.
Oh, I don't know why. I don't know why.
It was becoming a bit Dadaist at times.
Okay. I don't know why then. Sorry, guys.
But it's interesting. We got that wordplay. Newfangle's been doing a lot of that wordplay. We didn't talk about the sort of kissing, licking arse stuff we had earlier.
No, we didn't. We missed
They're too polite.
Yeah. But you know, we've got that thing of you know, when you cast allegiance to Satan, you kiss his arse, you kneel down and go there, as opposed to a much more less profane kneeling down with the good people, as it were. So that dancing around with that kind of text was it was really nicely done as well. Actually, it was a shame we didn't mention it then. But you know, nick hole to lick hole and all that business. Newfangle really does get the best sort of language gags, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he's being cheeky with the devil. I mean, he's really taking a risk here.
It's interesting because Lucifer's continuing as if he's the be-all and end-all at this point, but at the same time, I'm wondering, as I'm reading this, whether he actually knows fully what is going on and still kind of does it anyway, just because it's for his own amusement. Depending on interpretation, I guess.
Yes, it does Lucifer know what Newfangle is doing, or is he missing it? You know, is Newfangle getting one over on Satan? I mean, that's sort of the question for the room.
I think so. I think so. All this sort of, he doesn't want to recite this litany of praise that Lucifer asks him, repeat after me. He doesn't want to do it. Does that mean he's secretly good?
I think he just doesn't want to master, does he? He's just he seems to be that apprentice thing, isn't it?
If there weren't the stage direction, I would imagine, you know, Newfangle playing to the audience, but it absolutely pins him down at that moment, and that makes it difficult to imagine how you do it unless Lucifer was wandering around showing off to everybody.
Could be.
It's great the moment where Tom Collier turns around the thing where Newfangle calls him Tom Lickhole, you know, as if to say, oh, well, you're like Satan. And then Collier turns that around and actually calls him, I pray thee, tell me how thou dost, good friend Lickhole, and gives it back to him. You know, you're in consort with the devil.
Yes, the Nicole and old Nick, yeah.
Right, and all the scatological humour, you know, hold thy nose there and so on. I mean, it's very...
Yes, that Collier's the one that's sort of getting the upper hand, isn't it?
Yeah, he has the upper hand at that point, yeah. He's out deviling the devil.
So if that is the case, then maybe visually there could be, you know, as others have suggested, the whole thing of the devil actually making the pomp gesture and, you know, Newfangle in the background, you know, just doing something really silly and making play on those words just to kind of send up the whole idiocracy of the whole thing in many respects.
I wonder if it's not a get out clause. It's sort of, you know, well, I pledged allegiance to the devil, but it didn't count because I said the words wrong. And also I had my fingers crossed behind my back.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. It's that piss take, quite literally.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's getting ahead of Faustus by, you know, making sure that you've got the contract sorted, and you know, not making that mistake that okay, we've got another 20, 30 years before that's going to come around, but and there are other texts certainly later where tricking the devil and the agreement that you've made is something that comes about. So that's an interesting question, whether this is more of a tradition. Is there an earlier tradition anyone knows of tricking Satan?
Oh gosh, wasn't there something in one of the Chaucer's tales about tricking the devil?
There's the Summoner's Tale and the Friar's Tale. It's in the Summoner's Tale where he starts off with the prologue, has got a whole thing about the Satan having lots and lots of friars running in and out of his arse. You know, that's a very, very vivid illustration of exactly that kind of thing.
Yeah, and also, I've just remembered the Tale of Chanticleer. You know, the rooster in...
Oh, the Nun's Priest Tale.
That's it. That's the one, the Tale of Chanticleer, when they trick the devil in that as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
It's come in all sorts of different forms, I think, but that's the earliest one I can think of, unless anybody else has any other ideas.
Oh, we'll see what the internet comes up with later. As you know, we've got more Lucifer tomorrow, so it's not the end of Lucifer. Spoilers, people. Spoilers. Okay, we'll pick the text up, and because we're getting a new character joining us. In fact, we're going to have several new characters coming in. Tom Tosspot is going to enter in just a moment, and then we're going to get Ralph Royster. So, exit Lucifer for the moment.
Marry, it was a benediction of the devil's good grace. Body of me, I was so afraid I was like to bestench the place. My buttocks made buttons of the new fashion, while the horse and devil was making his salutation. But by mass, I am so glad as everwards Madge Mare that the horse and devil is joined with the knave Collier. As fit a match as ever could be picked out. What sayest thou to it? Joan with the long snout.
And Tom Tosspot cometh in with a feather in his hat.
But who comes yonder, puffing, as hot as a black pudding? I hold £20, it's a ruffin, if a goose go a-gooding.
Gog's heart and his guts, is not this too bad? Bloods, wounds and nails, it will make a man mad.
Oh, warrant you, here is a lusty one, and very brave. Think anon he will swear himself a knave.
Many a mile have I ridden, and many a mile have I gone, yet can I not find for me a fit companion. Many there be which my company would frequent, if to do as they do, I would be content. They would have me leave off my pride and my swearing, my newfangled fashions, and leave off this wearing. But rather than I such companions will have, I will see 1,000 of them laid in their grave. Similus similum sibi querit. Such a one do I seek, as unto myself in every condition is like.
Sir, you are welcome. You seem to be an honest man. I will help you in this matter as much as I can. If you will tarry here a while, I tell you, in good sooth, I will find as one as fit for you as a pudding for a friar's mouth.
I thank you, my friend, for your gentle offer to me. I pray you tell me, what may your name be?
Methink by your apparel you have had me in regard. I pray you, Nichol Newfangle, have you never heard?
Nichol Newfangle? Why, we are of old acquaintance.
By my troth, your name is quite out of my remembrance.
At your first coming into England, well, I wot you were very well acquainted with Tom Tosspot.
Tom Tosspot! Sancti! Amen! How you're out of my mind.
You know, when you brought into England this newfangled kind, that tosspots and ruffians with you were first acquainted.
It is even so, Tom Tosspot, as thou hast said.
It is an old saying that mountains and hills never meet, but I see that men shall meet, though they do not seek. And I promise you more joy in my heart I have found than if I had gained £100.
And I am glad there's one had given me a groat, that I have met now with thee, Tom Tosspot. And seeing that thou wouldst a mate so fain have, I will join thee with one, that shall be as very a knave as thou art thyself, thou mayst believe me. Thou shalt see anon what I will do for thee. For you seek for as very a knave as you yourself are, for like will to like, quoth the devil to the collier.
Indeed, Nichol Newfangle, ye say the verity, for like will to like, it will none otherwise be.
And here we are about to have the entrance of Rafe, but we'll just pause there for a second. Yeah, they're really doing the like will to like, quote the devil to the collier. Are we expecting the audience to start saying this back? It just feels like that to me.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Because otherwise it gets tedious. Otherwise, if they're doing it as a call and response thing, then it has a certain dynamic to it. We even get it in Latin randomly as well. So if anyone was wondering what the Latin was, it's the title of the play. I always like the appearance of someone dropping buttons from their arse. That turns up in quite a few plays, actually. I think it's it's definitely in Jack Juggler again, second mention of the evening. I think it's in Appian of the. It's all over the place. It's just your arse is making buttons now. Seems to be a phrase popular at the time, I suspect. It's such a wonderful thing for shitting yourself with fear. So they're doing this matchmaker, make me a match kind of thing with wrongdoers. Is that sort of thing? That seems to be the game that we're playing with here, except not with the Collier because he's gone away. He was just there for title purposes, I think.
I wonder, Robert, you've got a slightly different edition to everyone else. The next speech, do you have it as Newfangle or as continued Tosspot?
I have it as Newfangle.
I've got it as Tosspot.
I've got it as Tosspot.
Interesting.
Having read it, I think it works slightly better as Newfangle, but
it does. It does, I think.
I'll see if there's a footnote. There is a note next to it, so I'll just have a little look. Nope, no, there is no note there about who's supposed to say it. Let's try it as Newfangle then, down to so Royster's first line would be "And I'm glad." Then let's try it that way. See how that sounds. So we'll go from there. Enter Rafe Royster.
Behold, Tom Tosspot, even in pudding time yonder cometh Ralph Royster, an old friend of mine. By the mass, for thee he is so fit a mate as Tom and Tib for Kit and Kate. Now, welcome my friend Ralph Royster, by the mass.
And I'm glad to see thee here in this place.
Bid him welcome, Hark. He can play a knave's part.
My friend, you are welcome with all my heart.
Oh, God a mercy, good fellow. Tell me what thou art.
As very a knave as thou, though the best be too bad.
I am one which of your company would be very glad.
And I will not your company refuse of a certainty, so that to my conditions your manners do agree.
It should appear by your sayings that we are of one mind, for I know that Roysters and Tosspots come of one kind, and as our names be much of one accord and much like, so I think our conditions be not far unlike.
If your name to me you will declare and show, you may in this matter my mind the sooner know.
Few words are best among friends, this is true. Wherefore I shall briefly show my name unto you. Tom Tosspot it is, it need not to be painted. Wherefore I with Rafe Royster must needs be acquainted.
Faith, Rafe Royster, if thou wilt be ruled by me, we will dance hand in hand like knaves all three. It is as impossible for thee his company to deny as it is for a camel to creep through a needle's eye. Therefore, bid him welcome, like a knave as thou art.
By my troth, Tom Tosspot, you are welcome with all my heart.
I thank you that my acquaintance ye will take in good part, and by my troth, I will be your sworn brother.
Shush, like will to like, it will be none other. For the virtuous will always virtue's company seek out. A gentleman never seeketh the company of a lout, and roysters and ruffians do sober company eschew, for like will ever to like. This is most true.
Ah, now, friend Tom Tosspot, seeing that we are brethren sworn, and neither of our companies from other may be forborne, the whole trade of my life to thee I will declare.
And to tell you my property also I shall not spare.
Then, my masters, if you will a while abide it, ye shall see two knaves so lively described, that if hell should be raked even by and by, indeed, such another couple cannot be found. I swear by my creed. Go to, sirs, say on your whole minds, and I shall paint you out in your right kinds. First, Tom Tosspot, plead thou thy cause and thy name, and I will sit in this chair and give sentence on the same. I will play the judge, and in this matter give judgment. How say you, my masters? Are you not so content?
By my troth, for my part, thereto I do agree.
I were to blame if any fault should be in me.
Then that I be in office, neither of you do grudge.
No.
No, indeed.
Well, and you to stand capped before a judge, you soutily knaves. Show you all your manners at once.
Why, Nicol, or are we content?
And am I playing Nicol? And yet it is in my arbitrament to judge which of you two is the very knave. I am Master Nicol Newfangle, both gay and brave. Seeing you make me your judge, I trow, I shall teach you both your lirripup to know.
And he fighteth.
Stay yourself, sir, I pray you heartily.
I pray you be content, and we will be more mannerly.
Nay, I cannot put up such an injury, for seeing I am in office, I will be known therefore. Friend your head, sirs, I will to it once more.
And he fighteth again.
Oh, pray you be content, good gentle Master Nicol.
I never saw the like, by Gog's soul.
Well, my masters, because you do intend to learn good manners and your conditions to amend, I will have one fit more, and so make an end.
And he fighteth once more.
I pray you, sir, let us no more contend.
Marry, this hath breathed me very well. Now, let me hear how your tales ye can tell, and I, Master Judge, will so bring to pass that I will judge who shall be knave of clubs at Christmas.
Gog's wounds, I am like Phalaris, that made a bull of brass.
Thou art like a false knave now, and evermore was.
Nay, I am like Phalaris, that made a bull of brass as a cruel torment for such as did offend, and he himself first therein put was. Even so are we brought now to this end, in ordaining him a judge who will be honoured as a god. So for our own tales we have made a rod.
And I am served as Harmon that prepared.
How was he served? I pray thee, do me tell.
Who I speak of, thou knowest well.
Thou art served as Harry Angman, captain of the Black Guard.
Nay, I am served Harmon that prepared a high pair of gallows for Mordecai the Jew, and was the first himself that thereon was hanged. So I feel the smart of mine own rod. This is true. But hereafter I will learn to be wise, and ere I leap once, I will look twice.
Well, Tom Tosspot, first let me hear thee. How canst thou prove thyself a verier knave than he?
You know that Tom Tosspot men do me call.
A knave thou hast always been, and evermore shall.
My conditions, I am sure, ye know as well as I.
A knave wast thou born, and so thou shalt die.
But that you are a judge, I would say unto you, knaves are Christian men, else you were a Jew.
He calls me knave by craft. Do you not see, sirrah? I will remember it when you think not on me. Well, say what thou canst for thine own behoof. Thou provest thyself the verier knave, by good proof. Thou must be the elder brother, and have the patrimony. And when he hath said, then do thou reply, even Tom o' Waterings or Tyburn Hill, to the falsest thief of you both, by my father's will.
I pray you, sir, what is that patrimony?
I pray you leave your courtesy, and I will tell you by and by. If he be the more knave, the patrimony he must have. But thou shalt have it, if thou prove thyself the verier knave. Piece of ground it is, but if beggar's manner doth hold, and whoso deserves it shall have it, he may be bold. Called St. Thomas o' Waterings, or else Tyburn Hill, given and so bequeathed to the falsest by will.
Then I trow I am he that this patrimony shall possess, for I, Tom Tosspot, do use this trade doubtless. From morning till night I sit tossing the black bowl, then come I home and pray for my father's soul, saying my prayers with wounds, blood, guts and heart, swearing and staring, thus play I my part. If any poor man have in a whole week earned 1 groat, he shall spend it in 1 hour in tossing the pot. I used to call servants and poor men to my company and make them spend all they have unthriftily, so that my company they think to be so good that in short space their hair grows through their hood.
But will no gossips keep thee company now and then?
Tush, I am acquainted with many a woman that with me will sit in every house and place. But then their husbands had need fend their face, for when they come home they will not be afeard to shake the goodman and sometimes shave his beard. And as for Flemish servants, I have such a train that will quass and carouse and therein spend their gain. From week to week I have all this company, wherefore I am worthy to have the patrimony.
Thus thou mayst be called a knave in grain. Where knaves are scant, thou shalt go for twain. But now, Ralph Royster, let me hear what thou canst say.
You know that Rafe Roster I am called alway, and my conditions in knavery so far doth surmount, that to have this patrimony I make mine account. For I entice young gentlemen all virtue to eschew, and to give themselves to riotousness. This is true. Serving men also by me are so seduced, that all in bravery their minds are confused. Then, if they have not themselves to maintain, to pick and to steal they must be fain. And I may say to you, I have such a train, that sometime I pitch a field on Salisbury Plain. And much more, if need were, I could say verily, wherefore I am worthy to have the patrimony.
He that shall judge this matter hath need have more wit than I. But seeing you have referred it unto my arbitrament, in faith I will give such equal judgment, that both of you shall be well pleased and content.
Nay, I have not done, for I can say much more.
Well, I will not have you contend any more. But this farm, which to beggar's manor doth appertain, I will equally divide between you twain. Are you not content that so it shall be?
As it pleaseth you, so shall we agree.
And see that anon ye come both unto me.
Sir, for my part I thank you heartily. I promised of late to come unto a company, which at Hob Filcher's for me do remain. God be with you, and anon I will come again.
Farewell, brother Rafe, I will come to you anon.
Come again, for you shall not suddenly be gone.
And we're just going to pause there because it's a sort of fake exit that's a bit fiddly, and we've got an awful lot to discuss. But I kind of thought we had to keep going through all of that because it's a bit intertwiny. If we stopped, we might lose the thread. Lots and lots of things going on there. That's really, really interesting. That sort of competition of who's the worst person available. It's very 4Ps that it's very the John Hayward play from 30 years earlier of who's the better liar. This is a sort of competitive sport of who's the most nasty, who gets the patrimony, who gets the spoils of what. I did slightly lose of what they were actually fighting for.
It was a piece of land at Tyburn Hill.
Oh,
so basically it's the right to be hanged.
Yeah, the right to be hanged, yes. And it's that thing of getting to play judge, and are you disrespecting me, boy? Are you not taking your cap off? And then just going full Scrappy-Doo on them. I mean, what? And that thing, it's becoming even more the feeling I've had all the way through this, that it feels very like a boys group performing this. This feels like boys, it feels like schoolboys, it feels like this is for the schoolmaster, and you know, as it's got that learning quality of, here we have the proverb of the day, we've got a few more proverbs thrown in, or it's for boys, so therefore the characters have to be very boy-like, and even if it's played by unfortunately slightly too old actors, it really has that feel all the way through for me, and I'm wondering if anyone else is going with that. Thoughts from the room of quite long section.
I feel that. I was also very struck by what you said before about the is Newfangle getting the audience to join in with the like will to like, and I can see that kind of pantomimic kind of quality of this, where you could imagine Newfangle getting the audience to join in with that, and you know, where he says it. I also noticed that there's some other proverbs that are being used as well, as if it's like playing with the whole idea of the triteness of proverbs, you know, that ere I leap once I will look twice, you know, look twice before you leap, is kind of being pressed into action as all these people are coming out with these kind of cliches. And it's having a lot of fun with that idea of proverbs and cliches.
And the fact that they're not nice people who are coming out with the proverbs as well. It's that thing. All these characters we haven't met a nice person yet.
No, but they're fun.
They're fun, yes,
They're
absolutely.
fun.
And I mean, just coming from a place of reading somebody like Rafe as well, I think there's a lot to be said about the use of jollity and scrapes and all that kind of thing. You know, the use of insult again keeps coming up a lot, that I saw as well. You know, it's not just that conflict, who's the bigger villain in all this. It's actually, I'm the best at what I do. Listen to me. Yes. Yeah. It's like that whole thing. It's almost like, I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but it's almost as if this was meant to happen. Like this was planned by Lucifer himself. What say you?
Lucifer's one step ahead of humans. I think that's part of the point, is that, you know, you really can't fool Lucifer, you know. So if we go back to sort of Faustus at the end of the century, you know, it's all an elaborate con. And he thinks he's on top of it, and he isn't at all. So I think that would fit. You know, it's all a huge setup. It's also a weird. It's a sort of pastiche of order as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Given the way these plays go, I think it's interesting that we have this sort of these displays of judiciousness. At this point, but it's a kind of inversion, isn't it? Because presumably a bit later in the play, this kind of, you know, sort of chin-stroking morality stuff will be done for real, I guess.
Yes, and that question of who's the judge will possibly be something that comes up again later. It's interesting. That I will judge who shall be knave of clubs at Christmas. Is that sort of a Lord of Misrule type thing there, or that sort of revels thing when you mentions that? Is that what it's feeding into, or am I just completely connecting to disparate thought?
Ruth, can you think of any intertexts about that?
For that, no, I can't think of anything specifically about that. No,
because
I'm trying to, but I can't.
I think this would be a really interesting one to research. I mean, playing cards have been around since the 1300s. After the invention of the printing press, a lot more people had them. But I don't know whether the knave of, I can't recall seeing anything else about the knave of clubs being the most powerful knave in the deck.
I can't either.
Maybe it was a specific Christmas game that was in fashion when the play was written.
Right. That they suggest to me that that's what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah, go, Sascha.
Well, I was just going to follow on from that and say, I agree with the playing card aspect and the sort of Christmas sort of slant there, but I want to tap into your Lord of Misrule here, Robert, because you're actually not reading too far into this. Again, if I remember correctly from my old research, when in training, I remember the Lord of Misrule coming up an awful lot, even in earlier texts. Again, Chaucer refers to it in, I think, his later Canterbury Tales as well. He talks a bit about the Lord of Misrule too. So, if anything, it's tapping into an old tradition, a pagan tradition, if one of that, so to speak. So it's paying highlight, if you will, to something that's been around possibly for centuries. I mean, even in texts that show later, you can see the Lord of Misrule coming in a lot more, and he may not be mentioned as the Lord of Misrule, but there's a lot of connections to that. So I agree with you there.
I wonder if clubs gives us a particular social stratum, in the sense that clubs are associated with prentices, I think.
Oh, yes.
And
so
you could elect a knave of clubs, maybe. Ooh, that's interesting. Or a lot of Christmas games of this period have a random way of selecting someone to run the game, like the bean in the piece of cake. And so maybe you have a deck of cards, and whoever draws the knave of clubs is in charge.
Ooh, that I like.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Good point as well, which then makes sense for something like Lewis Carroll later down the line with the card playing, when they look at the suits and respect as well. So obviously that's something completely different, but yeah, that ties in.
Look, it's my friend Mystery. I'm going to say hi. Mystery, say hi to the nice people.
Second cat of the day. I like the imposition of animals. It's interesting we were talking about the period, because the thing is, we've got this date of 1560s, but it feels in tone, it feels much earlier, because we're into Elizabeth. It feels much older.
Robert, it really does. That struck me, and I only started to read it this morning, but it really struck me that it seemed much earlier than other interludes. It does really.
It feels akin with with so many other things.
It feels more like the Second Shepherd's Play or something like that, where you've got lots and lots of fooling around and world turned upside down. Lord of Misrule stuff.
Yeah. It mentions Walsingham somewhere in there, doesn't it?
That's Our Lady of Walsingham, which is Norfolk, and I assume that gets dissolved at the Reformation, because it's mentioned in Hayward.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Probably still a popular place of pilgrimage, even in the 16th century, for some people.
And a lot of these places still get used as geographical references. They get mentioned as neighborhoods even after the Reformation, because everyone knew where they were.
True.
Yeah.
Well, there's still quite a big audience for sort of medieval sort of jest book tales right into the 17th century. Yeah. They're still buying stories of friars and maidens and things like that. So I think there's probably quite a long tail in terms of popular culture.
Oh yes. So it's an interesting one in that. There are there's lots of questions this is bringing up, which I'm finding interesting. I'm not that fussed about getting answers. I think the raising the questions, I think, is almost as much. And some of the stuff that's come out there, I think, is really, really interesting. We've got that
on the Knave of Clubs. Sorry, I just was searching around, and there's something here that says they were equated with different figures. The Jack of Clubs was either equated with Lancelot or Judah Maccabee, which just struck me because Judah Maccabee resonates with Haman as one of the major Jewish iconic heroes. That whole bit about Haman struck me. It's not a tale that I'm used to particularly hearing from Gentiles. To be honest.
We hadn't touched on that story and the dialogue that follows that, because that sort of suddenly leaps out at you, going, "Where's this coming from?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Maccabeus, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but isn't he supposed to, like, according to legend, isn't he supposed to have had a hammer or something?
He's the figure who Hanukkah is based around. Obviously, but I don't. I'm a very bad Jew. I don't actually know, but I'll try and find out.
He's definitely one of the 9 worthies.
Oh yes, he did. Yes, his nickname is the Hammer, because that's what Maccabeus means. Yeah.
So maybe that's why he's the knave of clubs.
Clubs. Yeah. Yeah, would make sense. It just struck me that there was a connection, because I'm presuming the other. Sorry, I've scrolled forward in the script, but the other tale that's told, is that the tale of the golden calf, presumably referring to the.
No, it's a pagan one. The bull was hollow, and you were supposed to put offenders inside and let them be cooked.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got a reference here to Haman prepared a gallows
for Mordecai. He's from the book of Esther.
Yeah, Purim, right?
So we've got hanging, and we've got clubs, and we've got various forms of death.
That's right.
Which is all part of this thing. They're very odd references to be making. I find them that's one of the problems for this point. I sort of went, what?
Ooh, I found Phalaris, if anyone is interested. He was the tyrant of Sicily from about 570 to 554 BC. Sicily was famous for having these war machines and torture devices and siege engines, all fortifying it. And he built a brazen bull in order to burn people who pissed him off. But he was overthrown, and he was burned in it himself.
Yeah. So these are people who are creating these sort of or setting up deaths, but then they themselves die in the process. So it's everyone's getting hoisted by their own petard, I think, is the footnote I have here.
Yes. Do we know anything about where this was actually acted? Do we have any performance history for this?
No. From what we can get, I mean, the way it's structured and the way it's sold as a play text is that 5 people can play it. That it's a tourable show.
Horrible, right?
Or at least that's how it's sold. I mean, I say one of the questions for tomorrow is just checking, does the doubling actually work? Because there were bits of it I was going, I'm not sure it does. But it does feel like that it's that small unit of 4 or 5 actors. That crossover from interluding through to traveling, smaller groups of traveling players to the more the later, more expansive groups. But then it could just be for local amateurs. If it's printed, anyone could be doing it.
True.
Is that what the Lucifer thing is about? Doesn't somebody else say after that, I don't need my name written on me, or something like that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It feels very ad hoc.
Yeah.
That we don't have proper costumes per se. That we've just got, who's Lucifer today? Someone sticks a bit of paper on you. You hold Lucifer.
Just a bit.
Yeah, it's Tom Tosspot who says, "My name unto you, Tom Tosspot it is. It need not be painted."
Mm.
Yeah.
So I wonder about Devil and Collier then. How did they physically resemble one another? Because devils in medieval plays generally had masks.
Mm.
But if the Collier is supposed to be kind of blackened,
blackened and also associated with fire, I guess, and maybe he smells kind of sulfurous like brimstone because of the coal dust.
Oh yes, coal dust. That's true.
I was just thinking in terms of speed of, if they got to be somebody else fairly quickly. I I can't remember who's who.
Yeah,
The prologue doubles with the Collier, so the prologue would have to go off from the prologue and come back relatively quickly as the Collier. Yeah.
Well, it's easy enough to cover yourself in collars. It's harder to get it off afterwards. So it's the question of who is Collier. He's got to turn. In theory, he turns around to be Tom Tosspot almost immediately.
Right.
So that's That's a much more problematic quick change.
I suppose the Collier could have a mask.
Or just a dirty cap, or I think perhaps we're now bogging ourselves down with questions that at this stage perhaps we should finish the text, and we'll come back to them. But they're all good questions. I'm not knocking the questions, but I don't have the answers, and I think we should just rattle on to this bit of business. Here entereth Haunce with a pot. In a moment, actually, that stage direction hasn't come yet. Newfangle still has some dialogue. I apologise. I jumped ahead. So come again, okay. For you shall not so suddenly be gone. And then Newfangle continues.
See ye not who comes yonder? An old friend of yours, one that is ready to cross at all hours.
And here entereth Haunce with a pot, and singing as he goes. He singeth the first 2 lines, and speaketh the rest, as stammering as may be.
Quaff in heart and quaff again, and quaff about the house, and toss the black bowl to and fro, and drinks them all carouse. But God knows, drunk so much today. I be massy, most drunk, I dare say. I could spend a good groat that I could find my captain, Tom Tosspot.
Sit down, good Haunce, lest I lie on the ground.
And he sitteth him in the chair.
Sit down, lest I lie on the ground. He knoweth not Tom Tosspot, I dare jeopard £20.
He will know me by and by. I hold you a crown. How dost thou, servant Haunce? How comes this to pass?
Master Tom, I'm glad by the mass. Carouse to thee, good Tom.
And various drinking occurring.
Woo.
Hold up, good Haunce, I will pledge thee anon.
Well, there is no remedy, but I must be gone.
Tarry, good fellow, a word or twain. If thou thyself do not come again, bid Philip Fleming come hither to me, for he must lead me home now, ich do see.
Then farewell, Haunce, I remember thy errand. He will be here by and by, I dare be his warrant.
And exit Rafe.
Farewell, Rafe Royster, with all my heart. Come anon, and I will deliver thee thy part.
Now, Haunce, right now thou drank'st to me. Drink again, and I will pledge thee.
Omnipotenti, all the pot is empty.
Haunce, thou hast Latin in thy belly, methink. I thought there was no room for Latin, there is so much drink.
Ich learned some Latin when ich was a lad. Ich can say tu es nebulo. Ich learned to my dad. And ich could once help the priest to say mass. By Jesus, man, ich been cunning when 'twas.
I knew Haunce when he was, as he saith, for he was once a scholar in good faith, but through my company he was withdrawn from thence, through his riot and excessive expense, unto this trade which now you do in him see, so that now he is wholly addicted to follow me, and one of my guard he is now become. Well, Haunce, well, thou wast once a white sun.
Yeah, so God help me. Thou art a pretty fellow, Haunce. A clean-legged gentleman, and as proper a paunch as any I know between this and France.
Yes, but by God, ich could once dance.
I speak of no dancing, little-bellied Haunce, but seeing thou sayest thou canst so well dance, let me see where thou canst dance lively.
That can I do full trimly.
And he danceth as evil-favoured as may be devised. Wonderful bit of choreography for us to do there. And in the dancing he falleth down, and when he riseth, he must groan.
Oh.
Rise again, Haunce, thou'd almost got a fall. Thou dancest trimly, legs and all. Body of me, Haunce, how doth thy belly? Canst thou tell? By the mass, he hath bewrayed his breeches, methink, by the smell.
I will help thee up, Haunce, give me thy hand.
And he riseth.
By the mass, it was almost down, I think, verily.
It was almost to the down, Haunce. Marry, so think I. Thou art sick, methink, by the groaning. He grunts like a bear when he is at moaning. Hark, how his head aches, and how his pulses do beat. I think we'll be hanged, his belly is so great.
God a mercy, good Tom, with all my heart.
Thou canst not leap, Haunce. Let me see thee drink a quart, and go get thee out abroad into the air.
Tush, he had more need to sleep in this chair. Sit down, Haunce, and thou shalt see anon. Philip Fleming will come to fetch thee home.
And Haunce sitteth in the chair and snoreth as though he were fast asleep.
I pray thee, Tom Tosspot, is this one of thy men?
He is a companion of mine, now and then.
For the faith of my body, such carpenter, such chips, and as the wise men say, such lettuce, such lips, for like master, like man, like tutor, like scholar, and like will to like, quoth the devil to the Collier.
It is no remedy, for it must needs be like will to like, you may believe me.
And Philip Fleming entereth with a pot in his hand.
Lo, where Philip Fleming cometh, even in pudding time.
He bringeth in his hand either good ale or else good wine.
So I won't make you sing. It does say you sing if these 4 lines following. You can just say them. It'll be fine.
Troll the ball and drink to me, and troll the ball again, and put a brown toast in the pot for Philip Fleming's brain. And I shall toss it to and fro, even round about the house. Good hostess, now let it be so. I bring them all carouser. Marry, here is a pot of noppy good ale, as clear as crystal, pure and stale. And now a crab in the fire were worth a good groat, that I might quass with my captain, Tom Tosspot. What? I can no sooner wish, but by and by I have. God save mine eyesight, methink I see a knave. Oh, what, captain? How goeth the world with you?
Why, now I see the old proverb to be true. Like will to like, both with Christian, Turk, and Jew. Marry, Philip, even as I was wont to do.
Rafe Royster told me that I should find Haunce here. Where is he, that he doth not appear?
Oh, 20 pound, the knave is blind. Turn about, Philip Fleming, and look behind. Hast thou drunk so much that thy eyes be out? Look, how he snoreth like a lazy lout. Go to him, for he sleepeth sound. 2 such paunches in all England can scant be found.
Why, Haunce, art thou in thy prayers so devoutly? Awake, man, and we 2 will quass together stoutly.
Domine, Dominus Noster, methinketh ye spied 3 knaves on a cloister.
Stay a while, for he saith his pater noster.
Sanctum benedictum, what have I dreamed? By God's nouns, I thought he had been in my bed. Ye dreamed such a dream as thou wilt marvel to hear. Methought I was drowned in a barrel of beer, and by and by the barrel was turned to a ship, which methought the wind made nicely to skip, as I did sail therein from Flanders to France. At last he was brought hither among a certain sort of knaves by chance.
Oh, Haunce, here is Philip Fleming come now. We'll go drink together. How sayest thou?
I pray thee, good Philip, now lead me away.
Give me thy hand, and I will thee stay.
How say you, Master Nicol, will ye keep us company?
Go before, Master Lickle, and I will come by and by. Mates matched together, depart you three. I will come after, you may believe me.
And they three are gone thither, leaving Nicole Newfangle behind. And that's as far as we're going to be going, I think, today. I think once again, there's that when the proverb comes in again. I love the way you did the Newfangle, that setting up the line almost to feed in for the audience response, because I felt I was this close. I was this close to saying it back. Yeah, it really feels it works that way. What a wonderfully well-written drunk. That is so well done. I love that. My friend's going to take me home. Yeah. No. I don't know where I put the car. They took the keys off me. And they're so mean.
Was that, man? Yeah.
You know, it's that thing of, oh, go on, you do it, you do your dance, and he can't, and he's feeling sick. Have some more drink. Don't give him more drink.
It's jolly.
So, the question, one of the questions in my mind is, we've previously encountered a Dutch character named Haunce. Philip Fleming is a Flemish man, and Tom Tosspot talks about having all these Flemish servants. Is Hans's diction, I mean, he uses ich for I, which is often used in like West Country, really dense West Country dialect at this point. But is Haunce meant to be a Dutchman, like our previous Haunce in another play, or is Haunce meant to be a country yokel?
Both very good questions, which I don't actually have an opinion. The ich is. It turns up. Again, it seems to be part of that generic yokel dialect.
Like Tom Collier, yeah.
It turns up everywhere. It's in Gamma-Gurton and other things. So it's not necessarily even associated precisely with any locality apart from generic comedy character. I think probably yes, because if we're going with the like will to like, and that they might both come from the same place, and that they're mates, and one's looking out for the other. I think. I mean, what is Philip Fleming like? I didn't quite get a handle on him. He's not on for long.
He comes back, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Or does he come?
I don't know if he does he?
I don't know.
I don't think he does.
No, I think that's why I wanted to get him in.
That's all you get from him.
I think he's just there to get his mate at. Do we get much of a sense of who he is?
Not really, I have to say, from my reading of it, other than he's sort of, I mean, his thunder is sort of stolen by Haunce beforehand, because Haunce is such a sort of comedy set piece, whether he's slurring or stuttering or whatever, unless you were to play them as two beyond the pale offensively foreign stereotypes, that they kind of, that one almost tops the other. One is the sort of Helga to the other one's Herr Flick or something. That's the only thing I can think of to make something of it, because he sort of he expands on the song, doesn't he? The song that's been sung
the same
before.
Song, yeah.
It's like they've been to the same football match and got separated, singing the same chants.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of characters in this play have an accent written in. Philip, although he's Flemish, doesn't. So my thought is there must have been intended to be, I don't know that there's anything in the text about this, but there must have been intended to be visual cues in his costume. There must have been like a Flemish look. Maybe he's wearing wooden shoes or something.
I wonder if it ties into the bit that's really stuck with me from this, I have to say, is that initial discussion of fashion. And kind of, to me, it's weirdly coloured the whole thing in a sort of like bizarrely 1960s way, like thinking of periods where outre fashion was a subject of outrage, like thinking about how you would stage it today. And I think it's also because of the ones I've done with you, it's sort of, to me, the most Monty Python-esque. It's just sort of these bizarre caricatures coming in and having a fight about who's the worst. And sort of the whole idea of being hoist by Rome so odd. Yeah, so I wonder if there is something, you know, like you have the fairy come on in Beauty and the Beast and the white, red and blue, because it's now set in France and what have you, that it's a visual cue, because he doesn't seem to, it's a really strong contrast between Haunce being marked in that very stuttery dialectical way, and then he's written pretty straight.
If we're saying that Haunce is the drunkard, then it might be simply that he's just reverting to his national stereotype, whereas Philip is the more sober one, and is more together and with it. That might be trying to put too much layering onto what is a very broad brushstrokes thing. I think it's a good question to ask, as we're pretty much halfway. We're a little under halfway through the text. Of, you know, what's happening? What's happening with this play? You know, what is it?
It's weird because they really are like for like. I'm waiting for. I know they come in later. Obviously, I won't be here tomorrow. But there've been no characters that aren't deeply morally corrupt in some way. There's really no yin to this yang. It's kind of trying to find a peg to hold him. I would welcome a prologue or someone coming on in the middle and telling me who I'm supposed to, you know, adhere to or follow. And I think there is a line earlier in the prologue, isn't there, about this is the source, presumably, that sources the dry meat.
Yes, there is a moral coming, people. Just hang in there. We'll do all this fun stuff first. I'm so sorry if you're here for the moral. Yeah, it's been fun and really interesting, but it is that sense of, you know, it's all hanging things together on a very tenuous audience participation call out. I love the fact that the songs all end in a very easy way of making them rhyme. I say rhyme, you know, they all end on an R. And again, you feel like that's something that makes it easier to connect with the audience on some way, or whether there's something there. And talking about, you know, what instruments you have to hand in that early music cue of just going, well, if it is a bit rough theatre going out to the, you know, to wherever, maybe you can't tour with instruments, and it's putting in place that you're just going to do, and now we're doing the sing-along, and just keep going, everyone, this, and they just stick their fingers in their ears and sing beautifully.
They direct him. They say if he isn't playing, he should dance.
Yeah.
Presumably, if he is playing, he can't dance.
Yes.
But I like then they specify that he still has to sing.
Yeah.
That was one of the most Monty Python-esque stage directions about the counting of the number shall be 3, and it shall not get. It's like, you've really over-egged this stage directional pudding.
It's true, actually.
And I suppose in terms of actual plot, what we have is we have Newfangle deciding to divide the patrimony equally between Tosspot and Royster, which will tell in part 2.
Oh, will it? I'm so glad. I was worried. I have to say, it is that thing of the yes. If there is a plot that's going to develop, I'd be amazed if that's the bit of the plot that's going to be developed. Actually, I'm sort of thinking here, what are they going to do to this poor drunk? I mean, it's again, if we're, I've mentioned it a couple of times because it feels very, very akin. You know, we've got plays like Jack Juggler with Gamma Girton, Ralph Royster Doyster obviously shares that propensity for sudden random violence and random song and random that sort of randomness, but it is nicely tied together. I've not really gone, you know, I don't know where I am very often. I've occasionally got slightly lost, but that's because it's a cold read in terms of precisely why they're having this argument of who's the worst of them. But I don't think it matters, actually. I'm rambling a bit now. It's Thursday, you can tell. Any final thoughts? We're now into extra time, so I'm going to start wrapping this up. Any final thoughts in the room? Ruth, have you got anything?
You were talking about, the kind of national stereotypes and so on, and I think they're all over the shop, because there was one point where I thought that Newfangle was probably meant to be French, and that there was some, references to him having come from Calais or from France, and that it might be that, at the time that France was associated with, some kind of fancy fashion and so on. But I'm not sure that it's consistent. It doesn't seem to be consistent at all. And Haunce is supposed to be, isn't he referred to as a hangman of Calais at one point or something? But he's clearly not, from the accent. And it's all over the shop. It's just, the stereotypes are being rolled out without any particular kind of point to them, it seems, except to get a laugh.
It seems a very, very commendable thing, and I'm all for trying to get random laughs. Lynsey, any last thoughts?
No, I think it's very. I mean, one thing I do think was interesting, it sort of goes back to what Alex was saying, which is that it's sort of in the first half we've got no sort of morally good characters coming to kind of balance anything out, although they will appear. It's just kind of, it seems to me, it's full on comedy, audience participation. The devil gets the best lines. It's just, it's really, really good fun.
Yeah.
And the bitter pill to swallow is coming.
The bitter pill of good sense. Liza, sorry.
Having heard that first half, I see now why the prologue is so very emphatic that this is a moral play and it's meant to show that vice is terrible, and yes, there's this line, but no lascivious toys he purposeth for to use, as in, like, it's a family show. No, it's not. It's
I think it's relatively clean and tidy. I mean, it's not that. But we've got not any sex, have we?
There's no sex, but there's a lot of excretion. I don't know.
Oh, but that's par for the course. I mean, that's...
okay. So that's an interesting view into what was considered then proper for a family audience, as it were, at that time. So yeah, I thought the prologue was protesting too much, but it turns out it was just protesting enough.
Yeah, I think the prologue was deeply accurate. Alex, you were the prologue. Anything to add?
Yeah, kind of along the same lines as what Liza's just said, actually. It does protest sufficiently that kind of, it has struck me, comparing it to the others, that there is, you don't get a moral guide or a moral compass in this, and it does seem that it's very front-loaded with all, it's like David Copperfield's 2 marriages. You consider marry the fun one and have all of that, and then she's got to die and you've got to marry the boring, virtuous one at the end. That it seems that it's sort of lining that up, and he does say that none here at our matter will be perplexed. So maybe if there is any moral outrage in the audience, it's really going out of its way to reassure you that you're being sunk down into this dump so far in sin that you can then be lifted commensurately high, perhaps. I mean, like you say, like plot wise, I wasn't confused by the sort of set piece of the nice inversion of who debating to find out who's the worst. And yeah, it does have those. It does come across as a sort of as those pantomime elements of, join in if you know the words, or kind of and I guess stereotypes wouldn't be out of place in a pantomime these days, just about, so you'd probably get away with them here. It was interesting you Ruth saying about the French thing, because I'd wondered that whether this is the right period that everything profligate and amoral comes over the channel, and it's kind of, and particularly when we talk about fashion. But
blame
yeah,
the
right.
immigrants. It's what they've always
Exactly.
done.
I was going to say, name a time during the early modern period, or in fact any period, when that hasn't been fairly applicable.
Right. Yeah, it's the hangover of the 100 Years' War.
Yeah, Stephen, any final thoughts?
None at all, I'm afraid.
That's fine. Sascha.
None except how fun that was, and I look forward to more tomorrow.
And my final thought is, I think we're talking about the prologue gets it just about right. And again, I'm going back to Jack Juggler. What I love about that play is the prologue of there starts off by going, "Don't worry, everybody. This play is about nothing whatsoever. There is literally no moral theme or content at all." And then you get to the end of the play, and then it's like this penned by someone else, last-minute rearguard action, as someone comes on stage and goes, "No, it was very serious and moral. There was something very important there. There's a message here. Absolutely, don't be bad." Rah. And I like with this play, they've got the balance right. They've got the balance right. They've found the moral, and it's coming. It's coming, people. So for everyone who's coming tomorrow, there is a moral coming, people. It's on its way anytime soon. I've been Robert Crighton, your host for this session on Like Will to Like. And I'd just like to thank all the readers today and say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye.